it is easier for him to fan the flames of division than to acknowledge the ways in which he has betrayed those working class Americans, not just in this city, but across this country, and the ways in which he continues to betray them.
Zohran Mamdani, who is set to become the next mayor of New York City, has been absolutely killing it. So in this video, I want to get to how he reacted to Donald Trump's threats towards him, including the real lesson there for Democrats. How he frames the conversation, I think, is so important. I'm also going to get to a clip from another video that he released discussing how he won his race. And again, a lesson there for other lawmakers and other candidates. But let me start here with what is really frightening Republicans and also some Democrats about Zoran Mamdani. It isn't necessarily his race, his ethnicity, though they are using that often as a tool to fearmonger. But it's really about how he is deciding to focus on helping the average person.
Do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it.
Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Zoran Mamdani is critical of capitalism and a system that generates billionaires. That is why the ruling class is so afraid of him. This gets to that hilarious question there at the end. Do billionaires have a right to exist? Which is a question often posed to people like Zoran, Bernie Sanders, AOC. Yet you never hear the other question. Does homelessness have a right to exist? Why isn't that question posed to people that are upholding the current system? Because wealth inequality and homelessness are interlinked. There's a direct correlation between money being concentrated at the top and people at the bottom having nothing. There's a direct connection there. So what are your priorities? Are your priorities the best outcomes for the most amount of people? Or are your priorities upholding a system that disproportionately benefits people at the very top of society? So understand the framing of all of how media frames every single issue from this capitalist lens that is very uncritical of the massive holes in the way the current system operates. Now, before I get to this Trump and Zoran Mamdani back and forth, I have to get to this clip from Fox News. This is Jason Chaffetz discussing his best argument, apparently, as to why Zoran Mamdani is so terrifying.
Taxes are going to be exorbitant. The average person isn't going to be able to afford things. He's just like, hey, let's put root beer in all the drinking fountains. Everything will be free. Look at how I eat my burrito with my fingers.
Look at how I eat my burrito with my fingers? All right. It really shows you how unfamiliar Republicans are with a real principled message from the other side, because Zoran has actual specific policies that he is fighting for, things that he can do as mayor. We're talking about free bus service, universal childcare, freezing the rent, city-owned grocery stores, which is why he's not bringing those things up here, because when they're brought up, they sound like great ideas. But no, root beer in the drinking fountains. Okay. But he did have one, raising the taxes, which, yes, on the wealthiest people. A 2% tax on people making over $1 million. We're talking about a few $1,000s. Is that really going to destroy them? Like, come on. While people are barely able to live, barely able to afford, can't afford the rent, like, come on, let's get serious now. Zoran Mamdani is tackling inequality in a way that he can with his powers as mayor, and it is terrifying Republicans and many Democrats, because when he succeeds, it's going to make the rest of them look like absolute clowns. So Bernie Sanders went online to defend Zoran before I get to the Trump clip here, saying Mamdani won. The establishment is in panic. Billionaires are raising money against him. Trump is ranting. Islamophobes are on the loose. They know what we know. Candidates who stand boldly with the working class can win, not only in New York City, but anywhere. And I'll get to how Zoran won with his clip from his video later on. Let's stand with Zoran. So let's get to the Trump reaction now.
Your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zohran Mamdani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation.
Threatening to arrest Zoran, communist Zoran. Well, luckily this person doesn't exist, so they're going to have a hell of a time finding them. But look at how they can't even debate on the merits of what Zoran Mamdani is fighting for. If you have an actual argument against free bus service, against freezing the rent, then go make those arguments. But they can't argue against it. So instead, they have to create these straw men that he's a communist Zoran and he's going to destroy the city, which apparently I thought Republicans hate New York City. So if you hate it that much, then why don't you just let it get destroyed by communist Zoran? But no, they understand that he is going to be very successful if he's able to do what he wants to do, and that they don't want that because it'll make them look like the chumps. But this gets to this. Let me just show you the screenshot of this stupid video. Hat, Gulf of America. Chiron. Trump takes questions at Alligator Alcatraz after Senate passes the big, beautiful bill. So much of this is so stupid. I think it's important just to stop, occasionally pause, and just take in how dumb things are. Do not get used to how stupid all of this is. So, this clown, idiot, and his big, beautiful bill has actually led directly to a Southwest Nebraska clinic closing over the Medicaid cuts. So, McCook-based community hospital said it is shutting down its clinic in Curtis, a town of about 900 people. The Curtis Medical Center has been in operation for more than 30 years. Quote, unfortunately, the current financial environment, driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid, has made it impossible for us to continue operating all our services, many of which have faced significant financial challenges for years. And this is in a district that is controlled by Republican Representative Don Bacon, who voted to advance the Medicaid cuts in Trump's budget bill. Worth noting as well, a place that went for Trump by plus 74, showing you how little, and I've discussed this before the election. Republicans, of course, they're stuck in their own bubbles, but Trump has never cared about anybody. He doesn't care about his own voters. Obviously, that was clear the first time. It's even more clear now. He doesn't care about anybody but himself and his wealthy buddies. And even that, I'm not so sure about. So I think he really just cares about himself. But there were a few people came out to defend Zoran against Trump's threats. Bill de Blasio here saying Donald Trump will have to go through a lot of us first if he wants to arrest Zoran Mamdani. We New Yorkers will put a human shield around him if we need to. No one gets to intimidate us. Governor Kathy Hochul, who still as of yet has not endorsed Mamdani, despite the fact that he won the primary, says, I don't care if you're the president of the United States. If you threaten to unlawfully go after one of our neighbors, you're picking a fight with 20 million New Yorkers, starting with me. So now I want to get to Zoran's reaction to this yesterday.
Yesterday, Donald Trump said that I should be arrested. He said that I should be deported. He said that I should be denaturalized. And he said those things about me, someone who stands to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, someone who would also be the first Muslim and the first South Asian mayor in this city's history. Less so because of who I am, because of where I come from, because of how I look or how I speak, and more so because he wants to distract from what I fight for. I fight for working people. I fight for the very people that have been priced out of this city, and I fight for the same people that he said he was fighting for. This is the same president who ran on a campaign of cheaper groceries, who ran on a campaign about easing a suffocating cost of living crisis. And ultimately, it is easier for him to fan the flames of division than to acknowledge the ways in which he has betrayed those working class Americans, not just in this city, but across this country, and the ways in which he continues to betray them. Because we know that he would rather speak about me than speak about the legislation that he is shepherding through Washington, D.C. Legislation that will quite literally take health care away from Americans. Legislation that will steal food from the hungry. Legislation that looks to build upon one of the largest transfers of wealth we've seen in recent history in his first administration and do it once again for the very Americans who already have enough. We should be fighting for those that do not have what they need to live a dignified life. That is what I will do, and I am thankful to have the protection and to have the support of so many New Yorkers who have stood up and said how unacceptable this is, including our governor, including members of the labor movement. And ultimately, what I fear for is that if this is what Donald Trump and his administration feel comfortable about saying about the Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City, imagine what they feel comfortable saying and doing about immigrants whose names they don't even know.
This is such a great response because it refocuses the attention on Donald Trump's failures for the average person, how he claimed to help people. And if you look at exit polling, that's why he won. He won because of the economy. People thought that he was going to help them. And of course, it's the opposite. It's impossible to know if people are going to understand that, if maybe these Medicaid cuts, this hospital closing, a very clear example of Trump's impact, if that's going to have any sort of effect on his voters, because we know a lot of these people stuck in a cult, but a lot of people simply didn't vote, didn't think it was worth their time. A lot of people just voted for the guy that they thought was a little bit different, even though he was the former freaking president. But regardless, Mamdani has an actual message that is able to resonate across party lines. But forget, apart from that, resonate with people who don't normally come out to vote. This is a part of his clip now from his larger video on how he won the race for the primary. And look at the focus here on how he was able to flip some Trump districts, as well as get out new people to vote.
We wanted to rebuild a coalition that had frayed over years of disappointment and neglect, to win people back to a Democratic Party that puts working people first. So let's break it down. Last November, New York City saw some of the biggest shifts towards Donald Trump of anywhere in the country. Much of it took place in working class and immigrant neighborhoods. A few days after the election, we went to Hillside Avenue in Queens and Fordham Road in the Bronx, not to lecture, but to listen. And what we heard was a desire to bring down the cost of living. That was our focus, and many of those voters came back. Brighton Beach went for Trump by 44 points. Last week, we won it by 16. College Point was a plus 11 Trump neighborhood. We took it by 8 points. We saw similar or even bigger swings in Bath Beach, Astoria Heights, and the North Shore of Staten Island. The headline is clear. We can win back voters many have written off if we give them something to vote for, not just tell them what to be against. According to the Times, in the 14 days before the registration deadline, about 37,000 people registered to vote. That's over 10 times the number of new registrations over the same period of time in the 2021 mayoral primary. As a result, we won big with zero prime voters, New Yorkers who had not voted in any recent mayoral primary. For instance, in Gravesend, at least 32% of all voters were first-time primary voters.
This is the message I have been hammering on this channel for 10 years. Back when it was Bernie Sanders in the primary in 2016, my discussions around why he would have been able to defeat Donald Trump while Hillary didn't, because Bernie brings out people that don't normally vote. When you have a message, a principled message that is focused on people, that is critical of those in power, that resonates because people are critical of those in power. That's part of the reason why Trump won the first time. But Trump didn't have that underlying principled stance on actually helping people. Whereas Zoran Mamdani or Bernie Sanders, they do. They understand. So by focusing on people that don't normally vote and getting them out to vote for a different kind of politician, that is how you defeat this radical right. It's also how you defeat other Democrats. I mean, these people, the current Democratic leadership is just atrocious and are continuing to uphold a disastrous system that they are helping to usher, or have already helped to usher, to the Republican Party. But Zoran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, these working class messages with underlying principled stances, as well as specific policy proposals. You implement that, show how successful it can be in a place like New York City, who knows how this can grow.